thanks for that introduction, and thanks for having me. And to the International Pageant, thanks for being a partner with Go Red for Women. I never heard of Go Red for Women until a few years ago. And I'll share my story real briefly and let you know why. A couple of months ago, maybe a month ago, I was in the mirror doing my hair, and as I was brushing it, I noticed a strand of gray hair. And I'm 43 years old, so the time that I noticed the strand of gray hair was the same week that the soprano star died of a heart attack. The gentleman, I don't know his name, but of Sopranos, he died of a heart attack at the age of 51. Sudden. So when I was brushing my hair and I seen that strand of gray, I didn't have the normal reaction of, OMG, I'm getting old. It was more like I was celebrating the fact that I seen some gray hair in my head. And what caused me to celebrate was back in September of 2008, I was driving home from Gurnee, Illinois, about 45 miles north of where I live. So I was coming back home, and I had this feeling in my chest. It was just nothing painful, just it felt like some heat, and it stimulated to my left arm. And I was like, wow, that's unusual. Just drove home, took some Alka-Seltzer, and went to bed. I woke back up that night, I felt fine. This was on a Saturday. That Wednesday, I was at work, I work for the feds, I'm an auditor, and I was sitting in my cubicle, and the feeling came back again. I had the pressure, nothing painful, just a little sensation in my chest, stimulating to my left arm. This time it went under my neck like, you know how it feels when you're trying to hold back your cry, like you guys will probably do when you find out who wins. I had got up, I went to the bathroom, I took some Alka-Seltzer. For some reason, I always keep Alka-Seltzer with me. So I took some Alka-Seltzer and went back to my desk, and I called my coworker over, and I asked her, I said, do I look a little flushed to you? Because I was real hot. And she said, yeah, let's go to the nurses station. I'm in a federal building downtown Chicago with a dynamic nurses station on the 3rd floor. And we walked there, and I gave her my symptoms. And she said, well, let me take your vitals. She took my vitals, told me to go lay in the room in the back for a few minutes. I'm probably just stressed. So I went in the back, tried to lay down, but I couldn't because it felt like the room was caving in. So I just sat up and I rocked a little, and I noticed an EKG machine across the hall. So I said, can you hook me up to that EKG machine so we can see what's going on? And she was like, no, don't worry about it. That's what we use that for our physicals. Just lay back down. So I went back in the room, and after about 20 minutes, it felt like some pressure lifted off of my shoulders, and I went back to my cubicle, and my coworkers asked me to go to lunch with them, and I slowly walked to lunch because I was like exhausted, and I came back after lunch. I couldn't hold my lunch down. So I called my now ex-husband and told him of these symptoms that I had. And he said, well, you know what, I had those symptoms a few years ago, and he was 8 years older than me. He said that I'm going to take you to the hospital where I was at and take an overnight bag, because those symptoms are going to keep you. So I went home, I packed an overnight bag, I told my daughters who are here with me I'm going to get looked at, and he took me to the urgent care. This was that same day, Wednesday. He took me to urgent care, they took my vitals, took me in the back, did an EKG, and then sat me back down, and I was in the waiting room for 30, 40 minutes, nothing. So I went up there and I was like, what's up? Well, we've got other people, just have a seat. So I was sitting next to him, he was talking to me about his new relationships, they weren't trying to admit me, so I was frustrated and I left. I went home, this was that Wednesday. Now mind you, I had went to the nurse's station and they turned me around. I went to urgent care and I left after an hour, they should have turned me around. And went back home and I was concerned about this feeling I had. So I called my primary care physician, this is still that same day, Wednesday, and I told her of my feelings. I described it just like I described it to you guys, and she was like, well, it's probably a gastric reflux disease because you had hot flashes and not cold flashes. If they were cold flashes, it might have been a heart attack. So I'm gonna prescribe you some gastric reflux disease medicine. And she told me, and I'll have you go see a cardiologist that Friday. So this is Wednesday. Wednesday was over. Thursday came, I called work, said I'm not coming in, I told him about what happened, my boss. And he was like, well, be careful because my wife died of a heart attack because the hospital sent her home, and that's what it sounded like you had. But the professional people told me, no, that's not what I had, so I wasn't concerned. Thursday, I stayed home. Friday, I went to go see the cardiologist. Now, I knew I was going to be taken care of by the cardiologist. Went through my same symptoms. I'm 38 years old at this time. And he was like, well, you don't have the risk factors. Diabetic, no. Not really obese. I don't smoke. None of the risk factors that they say people typically get heart attacks for. So he was like, just come back in 2 weeks and we'll do a stress test. Now, this was that Friday. I explained I had those symptoms Saturday. I had those symptoms Wednesday. Friday, I'm talking to a cardiologist, and he tells me to come back in 2 weeks. So I'm like, okay, I'm freaking out, paranoid. It probably was just a little gas, big deal. Cardiologist told me this, big deal. Keep in mind, heart disease is the #1 killer of women. And listen to what I'm saying. It might not be because we're not doing what we should be doing. It might not be because we have it more than men. But pay attention to the way I'm telling you the medical people responded to this. So this was Friday. Went back home Saturday. I thought it was fine. I had felt like someone punched me in my chest the last couple of days, but by Saturday I was feeling better. Sunday, I was feeling good. I was like, okay, it was really gas, no big deal. Sunday night, I was getting my stuff ready for work for the next day, for Monday, and symptoms came back again. I was sitting in the bed, came chest, the arm, underneath my throat, and I got hot, and I was kind of tired. So my niece was over, and I walked to her room and said, I'm gonna go to bed with the door open tonight. Just come and take a look at me and make sure, I'm okay throughout the night. So I went back in my room, and I just couldn't sit still. So I walked down the stairs slowly. My daughter over there, she was, Mom, you okay? I was like, yeah, we don't like to admit we're sick or something's wrong, not to our children, and I'm not a whiny person. So I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. But I walked downstairs and I called the primary care physician again. I told her I was having those same symptoms, and this was the 3rd time in a week. And she said, okay, I need you to immediately go to this different hospital she told me to go to. And I went. I walked into the ER, and I remember this time I just leaned against the desk, and I said, I'm having chest pains. And the lady quickly came, she got me, she sat me down, she took my vitals, and she took me in the back room, hooked me up to an EKG machine. I was laying down by then. And in less than 5 minutes, she ran out, and then 8 people ran back in. I just remember, and I was looking up, and they were like, Carla, how's your pain? How's your pain? A scale from 1 to 10. I'm like giving them numbers. They give me this little bitty pill to put up under my tongue, and they said, Carla, you're having a heart attack. And I remember tears started rolling down my eyes. Now the tears were not rolling down my eyes because I was having a heart attack, but it was because I wasn't crazy. Wow, there was really something wrong with me. It was a relief of knowing that I believed myself, that there was something wrong, and I think we tend to second guess ourselves sometimes because, a little bit of pain, that's nothing, but sometimes it really is. And this experience, when I had the heart attack, it ended up being a widowmaker. I had 100% blockage in the left atrium, and from that experience, I now have 4 stents and a defibrillator. And I've been going to cardiotherapy, and I've just become a member of the Go Red for Women so that I can share this experience. Just to say, I now understand why it is the #1 killer of women. I used to think it was breast cancer, or something like that, but it's not, because it's not fully understood yet by the medical people that we think should know these things. But I think we're not where we should be, but we're a long way, from where we were. So my advice to you guys, not just with health, if it's something you believe, you have a passion for, you know whatever it is, keep pushing forward, keep making somebody hear you, keep doing it. Eventually, it'll come to pass. Thank you.